morning, everybody. Pardon me. Sunday morning, and my brain's on the go again. It never stops. I drive myself nuts. Let's have a drink. This is ginger tea. It's so nice. Don't need anything in it. Just, oh, you can't see it. I'll have to tip it over. But it's ginger tea, nothing in it, and it's delicious. And it helps my throat. So I've been thinking, and I'm sure that you, like me, are of the opinion that, or were of the opinion that you're relatively free to do what you want to do in life, when really, thinking about it, we're not. None of us are. There's a quote by Rumi that says, forget safety, destroy your reputation, be notorious, can't remember what else it was, but it was something like that, and it was from Rumi to say that you should do all these things. It's like the old woman, the book of the old woman that I've mentioned before, where she gets to a certain age and she said, that's when I can wear a purple coat and a red hat with things that don't go together, walk along the street and spit if I want to, because I've reached a certain age, so people will think that she's eccentric and make allowances. But really it's important to have freedom now. And when you think of it, do you vote? If you vote, you feel that you've had a say in the government that's elected, if it's the government that you want. But you haven't, because all the governments are the same. They all work in the same way. They're all manipulated by their puppet masters behind the scenes, the big bankers like the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, JP Morgan, even the City of London, maybe especially the City of London. Do you know the Queen of England? She is the largest landowner in the world, and at a stroke, that woman could wipe out world poverty. But she doesn't. She holds on to all those lands, all those colonies to which England is not entitled, all the wealth, all the jewels, all the cachet that has come from the opium trade, slave trading, all in Victoria's time, and based on the misery of so many people. And that's what the Queen of England, the royal family, the divine right, say that the Queen is anointed, and therefore it's a divine right by God that she's chosen to be Queen. I think that's a nonsense. I think that, you play the cards you've been dealt in life, certainly. She was never meant to be Queen. And just as Victoria was never meant to be Queen, it should have been a Queen Charlotte, but she died at the age of 21 in childbirth. So it's like turn a different corner, and the whole of history has changed. And but what doesn't change is where these people got their wealth and got their power from. and it was all based on the misery, the deprivation, the torment, the deaths of men, women and children who were slaves, who were used. And even now, to an extent, you know, the palace staff, they're nothing but slaves and flunkies. They have to stand back against the wall as though they're invisible if the Queen passes. At one time, they had to stand turning facing the wall so that they didn't see Her Royal Highness, Her Royal Majesty, I should say, as she passed. So we don't really have much freedom. Governments, as I say, we think we've got a say when we vote, but we don't. They're all the same. And when there's a war and everybody is patriotic, you know, we're fighting for a mutual cause, how do we know we are? All we know is what we're told. And who really would want to send their son into a war to kill another mother's son? Who would want to do that? Whether you're from England or whether you're from the other side of the world, people are people. A mother's son is a mother's son. A loss is a loss. And taking of a life is a sin. I don't care whether it's under the auspices of legality, that the government says, that's okay boys, you go in there and you stick incendiary devices inside women and blow them apart, as they did in the Philippines. It happened in Korea, that happened. A lot of atrocities were committed, and a lot of men who committed those atrocities were sociopaths. That wasn't just shooting for the sake of shooting at an enemy who was shooting at you. This was going in to assault civilians, unarmed civilians, and putting them through the most horrendous torture. And for that, soldier, when he went back home, for all the kills he'd made, would probably have a medal pinned on him and be called a hero. But if the same person wasn't a soldier and he killed somebody in the street, then he would be jailed for life, depending on where he lives, or maybe be subjected to the electric chair. Taxes. If you were walking out of, say you were paid weekly, as people used to be, with a paid wage packet. I remember those days, it was exciting. But say you were paid weekly and you got your pay packet and you were walking home with your pay packet and somebody accosted you, mugged you, took your money off you, or maybe took a third of it and gave you the rest back. That's theft. If that person was caught, oh, I am sorry, he would be subjected to a fine or imprisonment because he would have committed theft. The government does the same thing, goes in and takes a third of your pay packet without your wherewithal, without your agreeing to that happening, but they just take it at source. That's called taxation, and that's legal. If the monies in the country, the taxation, which is your money, it's the common wealth, the government decides what to do with that money. But increasingly, what they do is move more and more financial help and tax relief to the super wealthy. And they've got to make that up somehow, because wars need to be waged, roads need to be repaired, schools and hospitals have to be maintained. So they have to make up that money somehow that they give to the super wealthy. So taxation goes up for the poor, tax relief is denied small businesses, people who are disabled and sick, genuinely, people who live on pensions, those people, they find that they're rigorously means tested, rigorously, and put through the mill regarding the minutest detail of their finances, almost as though they're criminals, as though they're trying to evade the government in some way, when the biggest tax evaders are at the top, as we all know. So no, we don't have freedom, not really. And how do we get that freedom? Do we do as Rumi says and forget safety, lose your reputation, be notorious? That's easier said than done, isn't it? It's something I'd quite like to do though. How about you? I'm going to come back with a little chat about Chantal and Nada. Very, very short. There's just a couple of things I wanted to point out, and I will. So I'll be back in a bit. Okay, bye-bye. I'm tripping over my words this morning. I don't know why. I'll be back later.